Hi everyone, I'm Helen. Until recently, I was living like a queen. I had all the best clothes and could buy myself whatever I wanted. But then, everything changed. My parents kicked me out of the house. And this is how it happened. It all started because my dad had been secretly following me on social media and saw me having fun with my friends. Dad took away my credit card, my car, and practically forced me to go to a new school. I was supposed to see life in a new way and change. I immediately became the center of attention. I shouldn't have worn Gucci clothes on the first day, but I'm cool, I thought, and I looked down at everyone else. I got lost in the hallways, and some redneck wouldn't leave me alone. I thought he wanted my wallet, but then he started asking for my phone number so we could go for a walk in the evening. And then someone whistled at him.
Wow!
He asked what I was doing there. I told him I was lost, but he meant what was I doing at this school? I had to explain that my parents had sent me there to atone for my sins. He told me that there was no better place for that, because it was a real hell there. He introduced himself as Bill, and even though I would have immediately gotten Bill changed into something more stylish, I liked him, and I felt more confident. But I lost my imaginary crown in the cafeteria and became a laughing stock. When I got home, I begged my dad to punish me however he wanted, but just to take me back to my old school. But he told me that he was successful only because he himself had studied in a poor school and wanted to live better. I thought he was ruining my life. My classmates from my former school started uploading videos with parodies of me on TikTok. They even came up with the hashtag Helen the Queen Bum. My friends also turned their backs on me when it stopped being cool to be friends with me. My whole life was empty. Even Bill wouldn't come near me anymore. I watched him. He was different from the other guys. He would keep to himself and draw in his notebook. But at the same time, he was respected. No one took his seat in the cafeteria, while I had become an outcast. Everything I knew about popularity didn't work there. I even stopped going to the cafeteria so that there would be no reason to make fun of me again. But everything changed when, one time, it was about to rain outside and Bill offered to let me wait out the storm at his house. I didn't want to get my new white sneakers wet, so I agreed. It turned out that he lived in a trailer, alone. I asked where his family was, but he didn't want to talk about it. At first, conversation didn't go well at all. Bill wasn't talkative, and I was pouting that he hadn't come up to me at all recently. And then he showed me his drawings. On one of them, I saw myself. At home, I thought about him. I was often given surprises that I don't even remember now, but the thought that Bill had been secretly drawing me all this time pleased me more than all of them combined. We started spending a lot of time together. He explained that he had been keeping his distance because he had a prejudice about rich girls, and in some ways, he was right, but he saw that I wasn't like that. At school, we started holding hands, and no one messed with me anymore. I lied to my parents that I was spending time with my friends when I was actually with him. I was just head over heels. He was all I thought about. I had probably fallen in love. Once, when I was with him, I turned off my phone and told him that I didn't want to leave. But my father found me. He was furious and made a huge scene right in front of Bill. He told me that I was supposed to be learning about real life, not hanging around with some bum who didn't even have a future. I was so offended by his words that I replied that the bum's name was Bill and he was the best person I knew, and that I loved him. I wanted to protect Bill and make Dad angry. I definitely succeeded in the latter. He told me that I would never see Bill again and dragged me into the car. Once we were home, Dad told me that I would be going back to my old school. I had been waiting for those words for so long, but now I didn't want them. Dad also took my phone away so I couldn't text Bill. I couldn't sleep and heard a sound. It was Bill! I climbed out to him through the window. We were afraid to go back to his trailer because we might be found there, so we spent the night under a bridge. The next morning, we decided to run away. We snuck into his trailer. Bill had some money saved up, and then we went to his friend's place who sold him his old motorcycle. We were on our way to nowhere, but together. We stopped at a roadside cafe. I went to the bathroom to clean myself up. When I returned, Bill was nowhere to be found. I ran to look for him. Dad had found me this time, too. Money and connections are everything. When he brought me home, he told me that he would disown me and put me out of the house if I saw Bill again. He also added that Bill would have big problems if that didn't stop me. Now, Dad thinks that we're not together. I'm lying so he doesn't hurt Bill. We secretly talk on the phone. We see each other on rare occasions, and only for a very short time. It's very difficult. After he graduates, Bill is going to another city. I will also be 18, so I can do what I want, and I'm thinking of going with him. If I do, I will lose my family forever, because Dad will never forgive me. I'm going to miss my mom very much, but then Bill and I will be together. What do you think? Should I give up my money, my home, everything, for love? What would you do if you were me? Thanks for listening to my story. Hi, I'm Dina and I'm 19. A month ago, I found out that I was bought for $3 million. Here's how it happened. I lived in a huge house with a man. His name is Jim. He's 36 years old, very rich, and not my biological father. He became my guardian when I was about 5. I do not remember my parents. Jim told me that he took me from an orphanage. Dad, that is, Jim, has few friends and I'm enough for him. True, he doesn't like when I call him Dad. He always asks that I call him by name. Jim and I lived like the most ordinary family until my 18th birthday, until one night I noticed him sitting by my bed. He just looked at me while I was sleeping. And then he got very embarrassed that he was caught and left without explanation. The next morning, he forbade me to call him father because we are not even relatives. He wanted to say something else, but stopped short and said nothing. Since then, our relationship has become strained, but Jim was always kind and affectionate to me. I've only once seen his rage. It happened about 6 months ago when Mike appeared at the gate of our house, a guy with whom I had been chatting online for several months, but had never met in real life. Jim told the guards not to let him in and went out to him himself. He returned very angry and forbade me from seeing him anymore. In the morning, I couldn't even find Mike's account on the network. It seemed to have evaporated. Sometimes Jim's business partners would come over. On one of those evenings, I found out everything. There were 5 people hanging out there that night. Of them, I knew only Brian, the youngest of his friends, who always looked at me strangely. His gaze made you feel naked. He terribly embarrassed me. This time, the meeting dragged on late into the night, and while everyone was in the office, I went out into the garden. Hearing footsteps, I turned around. I saw Brian and smelled the strong scent of whiskey. He was very drunk and was talking some nonsense, touching either my hand or my hair or my waist. When I finally tried to leave, he aggressively pulled me into him. "Who are you pretending to be?" he said. "I know everything about you, and about Jim. This fool bought you for $3 million from that crazy... Maybe I'll buy you. Tell me your price." I looked at him silently and didn't understand. "You don't believe me?" he continued. "Here's the name and address for you. Go ask for yourself. Although, why am I telling you? You may be beautiful, but clearly you're just as crazy." And he stumbled towards the house. All night, his words ran through my head. I remembered every single one. the name that he shouted into my face, and the address. The next day, when Jim left, I went to the bus station. If I wasn't mistaken, only an hour by bus separated me from either the drunken delirium or terrible truth that Brian had told me. The house looked abandoned, but when I knocked, someone answered. "It's open." It was dark and damp inside. In a chair sat some old woman. She saw me and said, "Rosie, I'm glad you came back." I spent 30 minutes there, but the woman didn't say anything to me again. She was clearly out of her mind. I was about to leave, but lingered at a photograph on the wall. It was of her, but much younger, and next to her was a girl about my age, and another girl, little, about 4 years old. That girl was me. I had one single photo from my past life given to me by Jim as a child. There I sat on a white pony, and I definitely recognized the baby in the photo on the wall. Me! I took the photo to demand an explanation from Jim, but when I came out of the house, his black limousine was already waiting for me. I had never seen Jim so scared. On the way home, he told me everything. When he was my age, he dated a girl. Her name was Rosie. Her mother was against their relationship, and since she had an influence on her daughter, she soon stopped seeing him and they broke up. 5 years later, Jim found out that Rosie was gone, but her daughter remained. There were rumors, and many accused the mother of the accident that happened to her daughter. Then, Jim showed up again in our house. When he saw me, he decided that the same fate awaited me. I was discouraged and scared, shaking and afraid of everything in the world. He asked my mother to let him take care of me. She laughed and told him that she wanted $3 million to end this and no longer see Jim. A few months later, he returned with money. He took me and settled a bunch of questions so that the strings from my past would never overwhelm me in the future. So I grew up and more reminded Jim of his Rosie, both in appearance and character. He never wanted this to happen, but he can do nothing about his feelings. He loves me very much, but in a way, a father would love his daughter. It seems to me that I feel something for him, but he's 36 and I'm only 19 and I don't know what to do. What should I do? Stay with Jim or leave for an independent new life? Write in the comments what you would do in my place.